Well, so I wanted to have Jihan here so I could have a panel with him where I could ask him uncomfortable questions about Bitmain and Bitcoin Cash and all of the stuff that happened. I'm guessing he's in some hot water with his investors and stuff. I mean, financially, they're not doing that well as far as I can tell, or not nearly as well as they were in late 2017 and so on. And I mean, they changed their position to mostly Bitcoin Cash. And, I think it would have been interesting to find out why he did it, how much of it he did, and whether or not like he was planning to stick with it and at what point he would capitulate, that sort of thing. The irony is all these people that converted to Bitcoin Cash were like hoping that it would be a really good store of value by being a payment. And what we've seen is that with Bitcoin, store of value first, and then you can build the payment tech on top. Bitcoin Cash is centralized, so payments are easier, but it's not a very good store of value. I mean, it's still around the price that it was when we first split, which is kind of funny. And that happens when you have centralized players is, they're like, why am I not controlling this? And I don't want to listen to Amaury Séchet, and that's pretty much what Craig Wright did with Bitcoin SP. So my view is that it starts as a store of value. This is just monetary evolution theory, basically. It starts as something that people want, and as more and more people want it, it starts being demanded as a method of payment. Right now, we're not at that stage. Even the people that take it, the websites like, I think Dell still takes some Bitcoin or whatever. They're really using it more as a way, as a marketing gimmick, and they convert it right afterwards. So they're not really using it as a method of payment per se. They're just using it as a really terrible credit card processing mechanism with lots of maintenance costs and stuff like that. Thing is, payments are attractive to a lot of businesses because there's a lot of money to be made in transaction fees. And that's the attraction of a lot of these payments providers. And that's why there's so much competition. There's not just Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and Discover, but there's also like Venmo and PayPal and Apple Pay and Google Wallet and Samsung Pay and like a whole host of competitors. And none of them have done really that well for that reason. I mean, even to some degree, Libra is trying to go in that direction. None of them have succeeded in sort of displacing it because there's a lot of people that are trying to keep their position, and they have a lot of infrastructure built up and so on. Store of value, there's just not that much competition. You have maybe stocks, gold, real estate. That's about it. That's your competition, and you're going up against stocks which tend to be that's where a lot of money tends to flow, as does real estate whenever you have monetary expansion or large amounts of inflation, which we've had with QE 1, 2, and 3. That's a lot of the quote unquote stock market bubble is just all of that money finding its way to the stock market, and a lot of the real estate bubble is all of that money finding its way to real estate. But if you actually look at M2 money. It's from 1959. They started keeping track of USD M2 money, and that's and it doesn't include time deposits, or I forget, but it's from 1959 to 2019, which is where we're at. That's about 60 years of history. During that time, the monetary expansion has been about 6.77%. Now, that's classically what you would call inflation. That's a classical definition of inflation. The government's just changed the definition so that it's whatever purchasing power you can get out of it. And because they have all these like fudgy things that they can put into that number, they keep it at 1 or 2% by tweaking the numbers. Kind of like your high school chemistry assignment where you tweak all the numbers so that everything works out. It's kind of what the government's doing with the CPI. So it's not really 1 or 2%. And if you look at that 6.77%, everything else in comparison is all the stores of value out there, right? Gold, real estate, stock, they're just keeping up with that, which is horrible, right? Like stocks from 1959 to 2019, it's about 6.5%. It's losing a little bit versus monetary expansion, like in absolute terms of how much money you have given, how much money there exists, like as a proportion. Similar thing with gold and real estate. If you're making 6.5% a year on real estate, you're doing fantastic. Yeah. Like it's interesting that that's what we see as like good stores of value, and in fact they're just keeping up with monetary expansion, and this is where Bitcoin shines. I've talked to him multiple times, like even on the phone and stuff, but I've never actually met him. So it would have been really interesting to figure out his thought process and why he chose to go to Bitcoin Cash more or less back in late 2017, whether or not he was responsible for a lot of that pump that happened right around then, where Bitcoin went up. Bitcoin Cash was at around 0.35 Bitcoin or something like that. Well, I think it went all the way up to like 0.5, and then it started crashing. So that whole drama, like how much coordination was there behind the scenes? Like what part of his business did he bring to bear to, quote unquote, help out Bitcoin Cash and so on. I would have loved to find out like what the whole split with Craig Wright was like, and like what the balance sheet of Bitmain looks like, and all of those things, and even just ask about what's your relationship with McCree at this point? Right? Like he's the co-founder of Bitmain. And, I've heard rumors that they've had a falling out, but it would have been nice to know. So that sort of thing would have been really interesting at this conference. Unfortunately, Jihan didn't make it.